La 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 la. Can you hear me? Cannot hear you.
Now you can.
Oh, there you are. Yes.
It helps if I have the fader turned up, doesn't it?
And you call yourself a sound engineer? Jeez.
This is the Sheer Isolation podcast. It's presented by Kieran Moore and John Ponting.
You are listening or watching the Sheer Isolation podcast. Thank you for joining us. We are on show 18. They're flying by, Kieran, absolutely flying by.
They are flying by. It's I think as you get older, you have less time, left in your clock, and so time just flies by quicker. When you're young, you've got all the time in the world. It goes really slowly.
There was a theory about this. I wasn't expecting to get geeky quite so early on, but when you're 2 years old, 1 year is half of your life. But when you're 100 years old, 1 year is only 1/100th of your life. So that's the theory of why time seems to speed up as you get older.
There you go. Well, it makes sense.
The purpose of this show is to promote local music in the west of England, everywhere from Bristol to Swindon, Wiltshire and the Cotswolds. We've got some cracking guest with us this week, Seth Bye, who's Cirencester based. He's part of the more traditional folk set, but he's got involved with different musicians, and they formed a real fusion band, which is fascinating. And as he goes on to talk about, also part of the Giffords Circus ensemble, which Kieran was absolutely loving.
Very happy with the Giffords Circus. I do like their ensemble. This week's product placement. It's what we should have had last week, but I drove home and forgot it. So this is it's a 5-track EP by a Bristol band called Dog-Eyed. And Dog-Eyed are actually, it tells you, it says Dog-Eyed are. Dog-Eyed is Jonathan Minto, Harriet Elder. I know neither of those people, but it's Tim Rowing Parker. Now, Tim is the singer and principal songwriter in Wonows, and he used to be, a long time ago, in Crazy Arm.
Uh-huh. We played Wonows a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
We did. I actually love Wonows. So I bought this because I had like a spare 15 quid somewhere in PayPal or whatever. So I bought this vinyl. It plays the same both sides. So it's 5 tracks. Flip it over and it's the same 5 tracks. Well, I assume it is. I haven't flipped it over yet, but...
Right. Track, over to you, because you've been listening to the stuff that's been sent through to us, shareisolation@gmail.com, if you want to send us a track. You've been listening to it all, Kieran.
This week's song I've chosen is a Bristol-based musician called Lady Nade. And she was introduced to me earlier this week by a chap called Leander, who I think... Do you know Leander Morales?
No, it doesn't really matter. No.
Okay, you might know Leander when you see him. He's very involved in the Southwest music scene. There's loads he promotes, and he's a musician. Blah, blah, blah. He introduced me to this musician, Lady Nade, in Bristol, and I listened to one song. It's the song we're going to play you now, and it's called Sweet Honeybee. And I instantly fell in love with it. I was like, it was so instant. She's got this lovely, rich, silky voice, quite traditional, quite straightforward musically. I don't think it reinvents the wheel, but it is absolutely fantastic. So well executed. You'd think she was on a major label with major label backing and all the rest of it. And she's just this wonderful musician from Bristol who just bangs out these wonderful songs. And I just instantly fell in love. So this is Lady Nade, Sweet Honey Bee.
My eye on Sunday, chilling out in the afternoon. I felt my temperature rise when you turned your head to look at me. The sunshine in your smile, you sent the spark my way. You still light up my world. Well, I guess you could say maybe I was made for you. You were made for me. My, my, my. My, my, my. My sweet honeybee. My, my, my. My, 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 my. Sweet honeybee. Talking with you is so simple, as easy ABC. You're the keeper of my heart, the blossom on my apple tree. With sweetness in your touch, I love your loving ways. Well, I guess you could say maybe I was made for you. You were made for me. My, my, my sweet honeybee. My, my, sweet honeybee. You take me places I've never been. Didn't know what I was missing. Now I know it must have been you. Didn't know what I was missing. Now I know it must have been you. My sweet honeybee. You take me places I've never been. You take me places I've never been.
That was Lenny Nadine, Sweet Honeybee.
I could tell you were reading that off something.
Yeah, I keep forgetting the name of the song. I've only heard it yesterday, so it's still not lodged in there yet in the old noggin. And I also listened to like her entire back catalogue today. So I song titles. Who actually remembers song titles these days, John? You did when you looked at the sleeves of a record, but
Because back in the day, you'd pick all your favourite songs out, you'd put them on a cassette, and then you'd write the name down, you'd write the track down on the little sleeve.
and then you'd give the cassette to the girl that you fancy.
And these days, the computer does it all for you.
You don't even look at it, do you? Now you just press shuffle, don't you? And that's it.
We've gone on to one of our old man conversations again.
Here we have.
We've managed to write a
kids
note
today.
Time for us to introduce our guest for this week, who's it's a chap I've known for several years now, Seth Bye. He is part of the folk scene around the Cotswolds, has been for quite a long time. And a couple of reasons I wanted to get him on there, which are covered in the interview. First off, because he joined Giffords Circus at the end of last year, which excited you, Kieran, because you love the Giffords Circus.
I love Giffords Circus.
And obviously then through lockdown, the shows have all been cancelled, so he didn't actually get to perform with them, which is a shame. But also because he's quite heavily involved with the folk scene and being part of a folk band, he has been performing in quite an old-fashioned way during lockdown. So whereas everyone else has been playing in their bedrooms and streaming, they've actually been going out into the village and being able to perform live while still following social distancing rules, which I think is amazing.
Practically in people's gardens, just literally rocking up at their house. They didn't know they wanted it, but as soon as they started playing, nobody could turn them away.
Well, that's because you can't get close enough to time to go awake.
No, that's right, that's it. And they can't hear them over the music.
And they're not amped, so you can't go and unplug them.
That'd be my dream. Because I really probably, if you had to pin a type of music down that I love the most, it probably would be that Balkan style gypsy jazz, because there's just something about it that like speaks to my soul and it just makes me want to get up and dance. And that really works with the circus, obviously. It really chimes really well. But that would be my dream, just opening the door one day, instead of carol singers, like this, Russian guy doing the Cossack dance and some like fiddle going in the... That'd be amazing. Wouldn't that be... That'd be far better than Christmas carols.
I would absolutely love that as well. And I know what you mean about the Balkan sound. They kind of have bum notes in there, but it works. It's part of the sound, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
It kind of gives it that... I want to say both that dreary sound, but also that exciting sound. I each want to listen more, but it's
really upbeat, exciting, sad music.
It really is, yeah.
It is, yeah. But can you see Tweedy?
I can see Tweedy, yeah.
There he is.
Tweedy dolls.
The Tweedy dolls. Actually, they exist. I bought it for my daughter's birthday because she absolutely loves Tweedy.
So yeah, we'll hand over to that interview with Seth. One of the things we've been talking about on the podcast for the last couple of months during lockdown is we've been saying that there has been no live music going on anywhere, and you're just having to rely on people streaming and people online doing gigs that way. But you kind of broke that trend, didn't you? Because you have been doing gigs outside for quite a while now.
Yeah, that's right. So myself and a few friends just moved into this big old house together. It used to be a pub called the Packhorse. And I'm living with a few other musicians as well. So we thought, oh, we may as well start playing some tunes, having a little practice. And then we thought, well, why don't we do a gig in the village? And we moved in, and we thought it'd be a nice way to kind of welcome ourselves to the other people living here. So we just put on a tiny little gig on the village green, which is, everyone always says it looks a lot smaller than it does even on the live stream. It's just a tiny patch of grass. Set up a drum kit there, and everyone's been watching from their houses, very socially distanced, but their gardens. Yeah.
So what village are you in?
So we're in Ampney St. Peter. So one of the Ampneys. It's just outside of Cirencester.
One of those villages that's small enough to, as you said, that you can just play on the green and everyone in the village can hear you. You're effectively doing free gigs. You were streaming it as well, though, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. We just did we thought we'd do the first one as a one-off and see how it went. And everyone's loved it. It's been great because it's, lots of musicians are in this tricky position where we don't have any gigs and it's a struggle to make any kind of income. Obviously, we haven't been making any money from this, sadly, but it has been something to keep us occupied and keep us busy. So it's, we've been doing a gig every other week. So we give ourselves a week off. And then on the Monday, we just get together a set for the Friday. It's a case of bashing a load of our favourite tunes, get the set together, and yeah, people have just been watching from the village, from their gardens, gather round. And we had one thing that happened a couple of weeks ago, which was that there's lots of Ampneys, Ampney St. Peter, and there's an Ampney St. Mary, which is the next village along. And then we had someone come up to us at the end and said, "Oh, that was great. We were walking in the field just by our house, and we heard music. So we just followed the sound of the drums, and here we are." So they'd heard us from the next village.
Well, I will investigate.
Yeah, exactly. Live music, follow that sound.
Absolutely. Seth, tell me about the band. Who is the band?
So the band is myself. I play fiddle, do a bit of harmony singing, and then I'm the only non-sibling. There's two siblings, the Meredith brothers, Andy and David, and Andy plays the drums and David plays the guitar, bit of clarinet and sax, and he's the singer as well. And the three of us were due to be in the Giffords Circus Band this year. Just before that all got cancelled, we were meant to be playing in the Giffords Circus. Oh my God, he's got the badge. Yes.
And I've got the Tweedy doll.
Oh my God, that's great. Tweedy was at the last gig, actually,
Oh,
Yeah.
my daughter loves Tweedy.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
she should go. Oh, it's finished now. He was doing a great thing at the Barn Theatre in Cirencester, who've been very supportive to Tweedy and Giffords Circus. And Tweedy was just doing a run of gigs there, actually.
It's not your typical like circus. It's kind of upper level. Well, for starters, it has a live orchestra to do the entire show, which is quite a special event when you're there.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something a bit different. I always try and describe it to people, and it's a very tricky thing because, yeah, like you say, people think and just kind of a lot of those circuses are kind of a showcase of different acts, which Giffords is, but what they have, which other circuses don't, is they make it into a show each year. So they have a theme. It could be anything from last year was Summer of Love, kind of 60s, 70s hippie vibe. They've even done like a Baroque show in the past.
We always go to Giffords every year. We go to Giffords. We always go to it when they go to Marlborough. So we go to the Marlborough pitch and tent, and we watch it there. And the first year that I went, I can't remember. It was 5, 6, 7 years ago now. But it was the band that sold it to me. I walked in, and it was the way that they set things out, and the band are sort of in one corner. That you can't be in a corner in a circle, but you know what I mean, to one side. I was like, this is amazing. The live band really add a certain sense of drama that just a recording can't capture.
I think that's it. We're just always trying to bounce off, if you have a track, if the act at the time then deviates, that's not going to be responded to. Whereas, if you've got a live band, you've just constantly got that energy and you're bouncing off each other.
Absolutely.
How does that work with playing and performing? Because in a way you obviously need to plan, because the circus show is about an hour and a half in total, I guess, and you've got to play all the way through that. So you've effectively got a 90-minute score that you're performing 3 times a day, but things do go wrong in circuses and things go off script. So how do you play consistently like that?
Good question. I think, well, this was going to be my first year, so I haven't done a show as of yet. But having lived with the circus guys, I feel like I've gone on tour because I've just heard all the stories anyway. But I think there's a musical director, so we get together and there's a few weeks of rehearsal where everything's planned. But it's just a case of, oh no, this thing and the act might have gone wrong. It'll be covered. We'll just loop round this section. A little hand signal, it's looping round. Just keep vamping, style it out.
It is like an orchestra then, isn't it? Like a real proper orchestra. You've got a conductor kind of moving the music along at the right speed for the show.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time, the tempos and the speeds are really, really important. Like, you wouldn't think it, but whenever there's animals involved, they respond. They're trained for one exact piece of music, and that tempo. And if it's not the exact speed, it can actually throw the animals because they kind of get locked into this one groove.
All right, that's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah,
if you play it fast, the horse is going to gallop faster.
Yeah, exactly. And even like doves and chickens and all sorts. Yeah.
Yes, the chicken. I love the chicken. The chicken's great.
goes around the circus ring. Yeah.
It comes out and then you get the little tune and it runs back in and that's it. It's brilliant.
The littlest things please you, don't they, Kieran?
I'm very easily pleased.
Seth, you mentioned earlier on there about how you were with the circus family, and I suppose this kind of happened. Lockdown kind of kicked in, I guess, as you were starting to practice and get the show ready. What stage had you got to before everything had to be put on hold?
We'd started the first week and a half of rehearsals. It was coming on really well, sounding good. It was just getting a stage of thinking about putting the music to the acts, and then the decision sadly had to be made to call it all off. So we had tunes ready, costumes good to go.
Every show, so it's new music every time.
Every year, yeah. But then we do that show 3 times a day for 6 months. Yeah.
And no, because you live in, don't you? You actually literally live in wagons on the road. You take your wagons with you, don't you? You live the whole experience.
Yes, yeah. It's very much you're in it. When you're in it, you're in it. It's a very intense, but wonderful experience.
No staying in hotels and driving, between things. It's the whole, it's the whole experience.
Oh yeah, you get a bunk or a wagon. You live on the road. But, I mean, you wouldn't really spend that much time in it anyway because you're just constantly doing the shows. But then we travel all over, mostly the south of England. But this year we were meant to be doing 2 different dates in London, I think, for quite a few weeks. So up and down, but all over really.
The main circus event was going to be called the Hooli this year, wasn't it? Is that right? Or was that last year?
Yes. So Hooli, kicking up a party, folk themed. Yeah,
so that all got cancelled, but you are the circus is trying to do something this year, and that's what the feast is about. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. So the feast is a never been done before thing actually, because they're still doing 3 shows a day, but it's really focused on the incredible restaurant Circus Sauce. They're doing afternoon tea, lunch, dinner, and a cabaret style circus show. And then the Hooli, which is going to be this year's show, which was the last show ever produced by the late Nell Gifford, is now going to be happening next year. So I'm on board for that. So we're all just holding out till next March when it starts up again.
Fingers crossed for you. I know Kieran said that he always goes to the one in Marlborough. I always go to the one in Minchinhampton because I think that's such a lovely spot up on Minchinhampton Common. You go to the circuit, do the first show, like the midday show, and then go into the common and have a picnic for the rest of the afternoon. That is bliss. It's a lovely afternoon.
Have a Winston's ice cream.
Exactly, yeah.
I've got to introduce you my daughter quickly because I've got her Dolly.
Hello.
This is Seth. He's one of the musicians in the Giffords Circus.
Yes, hello. Youngest Giffords Circus fan. Brilliant. Have you seen the show?
You're 5, and have you seen the show? Have you seen the show before? Yeah. Twice. You've been twice. There you go.
Because one, I think, saw a bird, and then Neo, we saw chickens, and Neo, and I don't know. I think they were parrots.
And parrots.
No, they're just parrots.
Okay.
No birds, just parrots.
Not the bird kind of parrot.
Not the bird kind of parrots, the parroty kind of parrots. Do you want to take Tweedy Doll away now? Oh, yeah, okay. Go on, you take Tweedy Doll and you go and play with Tweedy.
I was going to say, we haven't really touched on the Gathering Tides, and that's the track that you've picked, isn't it? So I know you live with the Gathering Tides, and you describe yourselves as folk fusion. What are you fusing with?
Yes.
Good question. Whatever we can, to be honest. So yeah, folk. For me, I'm the real folky in the band, being the fiddle player. And then this is a band that was based in Birmingham. I spent some time at the conservatoire there a few years ago, which is where I studied music, and met all the band members there. So the guitarist is into prog rock. The drummer plays a strange kind of world kit. He's into samba and all sorts. And our bass player, and the bass player is massive sort of jazz, one of the jazzers. So kind of folk rock, jazz, and tiny bit of prog probably. So we just try and mix things up, and it's a bit of a festival party band, really. Gathering Tides, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and we've got one of the tracks that we're going to play, which is stop motion. Really, the video hurts my eyes a bit. I've got to be honest. It's a great track.
I'm glad. That's exactly what we're going for. Yeah, it's very strange, but we wanted it to be like our music, a bit of a strange mix of things. So this is it's the track off our latest EP, which came out. It was going to come out in autumn, but we decided our tour's probably going to get cancelled, so we may as well get because we were just been sitting on the EP. We thought we may as well just get it out. So we released it in May, and Stop Motion is one of the first singles from the new EP.
So that track was Stop Motion by Gathering Tides, which features Seth Bye, who we've just been chatting to. He's a fascinating chap. He's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on, really interesting. And he's multi-instrumentalist, and I'm really always impressed by people who can play multiple disciplines.
And can you imagine having to play a 90-minute score 3 times a day with the variation of it being for a live performance? That's needs talent.
Professional footballers can't do it, so they are more athletic than professional footballers.
Nice. Right, we've got a couple of bits of news, Kieran. So we have a knack on this podcast of being out of date before we go live, because 2 weeks ago we said that there were no gigs, and then a day later the government announced we can have gigs. In last week's show, we said there are all these gigs going on, and then a day later, half of them got cancelled. So where are we now? What is the rule?
God, who knows? Funnily enough, actually, I had a lovely, really long conversation with Rob Dahl from the Cheese and Grain earlier. And he's informed me that the Cheese and Grain are doing some pilot tests for shows. And they have a capacity, their venue's 800 cap. They're going to be reducing it to 120, all seated. And they're basically going to do a bunch of acoustic style shows or like one-man band type shows. So I think people are gearing up to go back to doing a form of gig, but the whole issue still stands of affordability. Once you've paid the talent, once you've increased your costs with extra staffing, is it financially viable? And the answer is probably still no. But for the Cheese and Grain, they need to do it. They need to keep engaging their audience and remind people that they're still alive. So they're going to do it anyway, even if they lose money.
As I understand it at the moment, the reason why quite a few gigs got cancelled on the 1st of August was because the government changed the rule about indoor gigs. So is that still the case? Can you only have live music in an outdoor scenario?
As I understand it, yes, that's right. Yeah, you can't do indoor stuff yet. Obviously, last week I announced John Gomm's performing. That's in December. So I'm effectively hedging my bets that come December we'll be allowed indoors again for events. There is a massive moral quandary here. So should you really be selling tickets for events that are indoors or involving people being together? I went to a circus at the weekend in Bristol, socially distanced. I was comfortable in that environment. It was safe. I believe I can make events safe. So yes, I don't have an issue selling tickets. But again, my event is in December. There's no right or wrong. Everyone's trying to sort of figure this out the best way they possibly can, and everyone's interpreting it all slightly different. We do seem to be in a bit of a flux of inconsistency as well, because I saw a post earlier on from Sarah at Mind Your Music, which is a Bristol-based charity that organises amateur choirs for people's well-being, mental health, and all that kind of stuff. But amateur choirs are not allowed to gather at the moment for more than maximum is 6, but professionals can gather to practice. Professionals are allowed to, but they're allowed to perform their wind instruments live as well. If you're a professional, who's the arbitrator here to say who's professional, who's not? If you're being paid for it, are you professional, or is it if it's your only source of income, you're a professional?
And what happens when you're a charity? If you're a charity, does that automatically make you an amateur?
Basically, it's all ham-fisted, and I hate to keep knocking the government and complain, but I understand it's a really big, complex beast. Lots of people are giving you lots of information, and they're trying their best. But ultimately, it comes down to effectively whatever you feel you can justify seems to be okay. That would appear to be my interpretation of the whole thing. If you had to put a pin in it, that would be it.
Be sensible and stay safe and do what you can. Be sensible
and stay safe, yeah. Just do what you can to stay safe. And if you don't feel comfortable going to an event, don't go. There is no fear of missing out. Gigs will happen again. You're not going to be missing out by not attending these things. So if you don't feel comfortable going, don't go.
I'm going to leave it there.
Brilliant. So, right, John.
I will leave you be.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure, John. I like seeing you. I like seeing your face on a weekly basis.
Well, you're stuck with me for a while now because we've said we're going to do this for a while.
Next week's guest is going to be Annie Gardner, who was formerly of hysterical injury. She now has a solo project that she's doing, and Annie's got a really lush, interesting history in regards to music. She's done some art installations. She's done all sorts of stuff. We're going to pick her brains and find out all about it next week, and it'll be very, very interesting.
Nice. Same time, same place. Wherever you listen or watch us, we will be back. Same time, same place. See you later on.
Bye, y'all.